Jason Landry was born on July 29, 1999, to Kent and Lisa Landry in Missouri City, Texas. The youngest of three siblings, Jason was a spirited child with an oversized personality and was known affectionately as the goofball of the family. His older siblings, Jessica and Kyle, could recount many stories starring Jason's wit, charisma, warmth, and unique charm. From a young age, Jason's love for music was apparent. He played the trombone in high school and enjoyed producing electronic music from home. He had dreams of pursuing a career in music production or the video game industry. He played multiple instruments and could often be found engrossed in audio equipment, sound software, or the creation of music. Jason was said to never take life too seriously. He wore silly socks, requested cookie cakes every year on his birthday instead of regular birthday cakes, and had a special fondness for Swedish fish candy. An animal lover and a nature enthusiast, Jason loved being outdoors. He enjoyed spending time with his childhood dog, Max, and had his own pet betta fish. Jason graduated from Ridgepoint High School in 2019 and enrolled in Texas State University in San Marcos in order to study sound recording technology. Like many of his peers, Jason's college journey was deeply disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Social interactions diminished, classes went online, and the isolation began to take its toll on the college freshman. During the fall of 2020, Jason became increasingly withdrawn. He started self-medicating with cannabis, and his friends recall that his days were often spent inside of his apartment, gaming, listening to music, and texting late into the night, with no face-to-face interactions. Still, Jason maintained close digital contact with his family. He FaceTimed his parents regularly and frequently sent his mom TikTok videos that he thought she would like. Despite his mental health struggles, Jason remained deeply connected to his geographical roots. He often made the 3-hour drive from San Marcos back to Missouri City to visit his family and to see Max, his beloved dog. No one in his inner circle could have known that one of these drives, on December 13th, 2020, would become the last confirmed moment of his life. That Sunday, Jason was preparing to head home for winter break. His finals were over, and his school semester had ended. Surveillance footage showed him leaving his off-campus apartment at 10:55 p.m., wearing a white t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops, and carrying his backpack. He drove away in his Nissan Altima with a water bottle tucked into the handle of the car door, a small detail that would later become symbolic of just how quickly his life changed. Between 11:05 and 11:12 p.m., Jason opened his Waze GPS app and began driving down Highway 80, passing underneath Interstate 35 and reaching Martindale, Texas. At 11:24 p.m., he closed Waze and opened Snapchat. Jason's phone connected to Snapchat near Luling, a small town about 30 miles from San Marcos. It's unclear why Jason took that route. The GPS from his Waze app indicated he may have missed a turn, and the app rerouted him through the rural roads of Cadwell County, roads that many locals say they avoid at night due to their darkness, desolation, and narrow, twisting paths. At 12:31 a.m., a local volunteer firefighter found Jason's crashed and abandoned car on Salt Flat Road, a rough gravel road off of the highway. He immediately notified the police. The car's lights, he noted, were still on, and the keys were in the ignition. The rear of the vehicle had hit a tree and spun out, facing the wrong direction. The damage was minimal, airbags had not deployed, and a person could have walked away from the crash. And it seems someone did, as there was no sign of Jason. Initially assuming that it was a DUI-related crash, a DPS officer responded and had the vehicle towed, but as a result, he failed to immediately treat the scene as potentially suspicious. This critical delay may have cost investigators valuable evidence. As the registered owner of the vehicle, Kent Landry, Jason's father, got a phone call from DPS officers around 2 a.m. They informed him of the car accident. The officer also asked Jason's father if Jason had wound up with him. However, this was the first Kent had heard of the accident, and thus he confirmed that Jason was officially missing. Alarmed, Kent immediately got into his own vehicle and started the journey from Missouri City to the impound lot in Luling. By 5:30 a.m., he had arrived at the lot, but it was closed at that early hour, and that required him to wait until entry was permitted, wasting precious time as the initial 48 hours of an investigation are key. Upon finally accessing the vehicle through the unlocked driver's side door, Kent recovered Jason's phone from where it had been lodged between the seat and the center console. From there, his father proceeded to the crash site itself. Approximately 900 feet from the scene, Kent discovered Jason's backpack, containing a laptop, cannabis, and a small glass pipe. Continuing down the rural gravel road, he encountered a scattering of Jason's personal effects: a shirt, shorts, socks, underwear, sandals, a wristwatch, a hat, various toiletries, and a container holding his deceased pet betta fish. The trail of artifacts ended at a barbed wire fence. Beyond it lay open pasture and dense woodland. It seemed Jason had seemingly vanished into the night. Investigators noted a small smear of blood on the waistband of the pair of shorts found, possibly caused by contact with the fence or the vehicle. Evidence indicated the clothing was worn at the time of the crash, with no signs of forced removal. The temperatures that night ranged from 36 to 43 degrees Fahrenheit, weather that would have necessitated the warmth of all of the clothing scattered just 300 yards from the wreckage, begging the question as to why Jason had taken them off, seemingly of his own accord. No blood was found inside of the vehicle, and there was no evidence to suggest that Jason had intended to meet up with anyone in or around Luling. A large-scale search commenced. Bloodhounds tracked a scent from the crash site past the fence line into a wooded area known as Bushy Creek, where the scent abruptly ended. For weeks, helicopters, drones, cadaver dogs, and hundreds of volunteers conducted extensive ground and aerial searches. No physical trace of Jason was located. The absence of evidence prompted widespread public interest and speculation. Online forums circulated theories ranging from hypothermia-induced paradoxal undressing to abduction, or even possibly a faked disappearance. Jason's father, a formal trial lawyer and Presbyterian church minister, remained an active presence in the search, consistently expressing the family's commitment to bringing Jason home. Months passed without progress, and key questions persisted. Why was Jason's phone left in the vehicle? And why was the vehicle left unlocked? What was the reason behind Jason's belongings being scattered across the road? Why did the dogs tracking Jason's scent lose the trail so abruptly? The family retained a private investigator, Abel Pina, a former federal agent, who alleged that the crash was staged and that Jason had never entered Luling. He criticized the initial law enforcement response, claiming investigative errors compromised evidence. Veteran trackers and experts, including Jim West and geographic profiler Dr. Kim Rossmo, rejected this theory, however, concluding the crash was genuine and that Jason likely succumbed to environmental exposure after leaving the scene, possibly with a head injury. Over 4 years later, Jason's remains have not been found, and the $20,000 reward that Jason's family so hopefully put up remains unclaimed. His image endures on the weathered roadside signs near Salt Flat Road. Family now accepts, they say, his likely death, seeking resolution to a case that continues to resist definitive answers and leaves a grieving family without closure. If you know anything about the disappearance of Jason Landry, contact the Texas Attorney General's Cold Case and Missing Persons Unit at area code 512-936-0742. Joshua Cheney Guimond was born on June 18, 1982, in Redwood Falls, Minnesota. and raised in nearby Maple Lake. From an early age, he demonstrated exceptional academic ability and leadership qualities that would define his short but impactful life. He graduated as both valedictorian and class president of Maple Lake High School in the year 2000, earning the distinction of being voted most likely to succeed by his classmates. His ambitions reached beyond typical teenage dreams, however. Josh openly spoke of his desire to one day run for president of the United States. At St. John's University in Collegeville, Minnesota, Josh continued to excel academically while studying politics and law. He served as a co-captain of the mock trial team and was an active member of the university's pre-law society. His future appeared bright and well-planned. He intended to attend Yale Law School and eventually run for the Minnesota State House of Representatives. By November of 2002, he was living at St. Maur House Dormitory with 5 other roommates, including his close friend Nick Heidukovich. In the late fall of 2002, Joshua ended a long-term relationship with his girlfriend, Katie Benson. Despite the breakup, the two continued to remain friends. On Saturday, November 9th, Josh spent the day working on a research paper about Alexander Hamilton at the university library before returning to his dorm. That evening, Josh's ex, Katie, asked Josh's roommate, Nick, if they wanted to hang out with her and her roommates. Nick accepted the invitation. However, Josh had also received an invite to a small poker party at his friend Nate Slinkert's place at the Medencourt Apartments, just a short walk from his home. He accepted the invite, and the two friends knew that they'd see each other back at home, or so they thought. Josh and Nick stayed home to eat dinner with friends at 5 p.m. At around 6:40, their friend Alex Jude arrived at their apartment. Josh and Alex spent some time drinking beer, listening to music, and talking. The same, Alex recalls, as they always did. At approximately 7 p.m., Nick left to meet Katie, saying goodbye to Josh for what would unknowingly be the last time. Later that night, at around 10 p.m., another friend, Greg Warden, Josh's former roommate, met with Josh and Alex at the St. Maur Apartments. By 11 p.m., the three had decided to head to the party at Nate's apartment in Medencourt, located on the northern edge of campus. As Stump Lake cuts through the university campus, walking between Medencourt and St. Maur requires crossing a bridge along St. John's Road. Security logs show that Josh's key was recorded as being used at 11:06 p.m., which investigators believe was him briefly returning to his apartment, likely to grab a few more beers before heading back to the party. This would be the final recorded use of his key card. The gathering at Medencourt was small and low-key, with only about 10 to 12 students in attendance. Josh was described as being in good spirits throughout the night. He had been drinking. Reports estimate that he had consumed 7 to 12 beers throughout the evening. However, accounts of his level of intoxication varied. Some believed he appeared sober and composed, while others said he seemed visibly drunk. Sometime between 11:45 p.m. and midnight, Josh stood up from the table. Most of the partygoers say they did not think much of it, nor did they notice exactly where he was headed. According to several attendees, he appeared to leave the gathering without saying a word. Notably, he was not dressed appropriately for the chilly weather outside. Greg assumed Josh was simply heading to the bathroom, as both the bathroom and the apartment's front door were located in the same direction. The walk from Medencourt back to Josh's dormitory at St. Maur House should have taken no more than 3 minutes. 2 witnesses reported seeing a man, matching Josh's description, walking across a bridge near Stump Lake between 12:15 and 12:30 a.m. on November 10th. This sighting would prove to be the last confirmed observation of Josh. His friends say they assumed he had simply headed back to his dorm. However, when Josh failed to appear at a mock trial meeting on the afternoon of November 10th, his friends knew something was seriously wrong. By that evening, campus security had been notified, and Josh's parents received the alarming news that their son was missing. The search effort that followed was massive and comprehensive. The Stearns County Sheriff's Office led the investigation, which was assisted by the FBI, the Minnesota National Guard, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and a large amount of the worried public, who shared Josh's parents' devastation and frustration at the fact that a student on their local college campus could seemingly disappear without a trace. More than 100 National Guard members joined at least 250 local volunteers in searching a 16-mile square area around the university. Helicopters equipped with infrared imaging scanned the terrain, while specialized dive teams and sonar technology were deployed to search Stump Lake and other nearby bodies of water. Authorities discovered that Josh's vehicle had remained parked on campus, apparently untouched. Inside his dorm room, his personal belongings were all accounted for. They noted that his AOL Instant Messenger account, a popular mode of communication in 2002, had not been accessed in roughly 12 hours. And in an unsettling detail, the detectives noticed that the television in his room was still turned on. Multiple bloodhound searches were conducted, with one professionally trained dog tracking Josh's scent to the bridge near Stump Lake, where his scent trail went cold. The initial theory proposed by law enforcement suggested that Josh, possibly intoxicated, had fallen into Stump Lake during his walk home. This theory was supported by the bloodhound trail that led to the lake's edge. However, despite the searchers having used divers, sonar technology, and underwater cameras, no trace of Josh was ever found in any of the campus or nearby waterways. Some say the most troubling aspect of the case involves Josh's roommate and close friend, Nick Heidekovich. Nick had spent the evening of November 9th with Josh's ex-girlfriend, Katie Benson, at her apartment. However, significant discrepancies emerged in the timelines provided by Nick and Katie to investigators. Nick claimed that he had left Katie's apartment around 2:30 a.m. on November 10th, and his keycard showed that he entered his and Josh's shared dormitory at 2:42 a.m. However, Katie stated that Nick had actually left her apartment much earlier, around 1 or 1:30 a.m. Given that the drive between locations was only 7 to 10 minutes, this discrepancy between the time Nick claimed he left Katie's apartment and the time his digital keycard was tracked as entering the dormitory was the sign of a typical drunken college night to some, but an investigatory red flag to others. If Nick had left around the time when Katie recalls him leaving, that meant that there were up to 90 minutes of unaccounted for time in Nick's alibi. Adding to the suspicion, fellow students reported hearing Nick and Josh arguing loudly the night before Josh's disappearance. The argument was allegedly related to Nick's romantic interest in Katie, the same girl Josh dated for 4.5 years. When investigators requested that Nick take a polygraph test, he declined. Nick has denied any involvement in Josh's disappearance and is not officially a person of interest. Years after his disappearance, a shocking discovery was made on Josh's personal computer. Detectives found that someone had deleted items from the computer's hard drive in the days following the owner's disappearance. Because Josh's room was never secured as a crime scene by police, anyone with access to the apartment could have tampered with digital evidence. In 2008, using advanced data recovery techniques, authorities were able to retrieve some of the deleted information. The recovered data revealed that Josh had created 3 different profiles on Yahoo Personals, an online dating service. In 2 of these profiles, he presented himself not as Josh, but as a lady named Gwen, using a photograph of a blonde woman that none of his friends say they recognized. The profiles showed evidence of conversation with various men. Additionally, it was found that Josh had been researching making fake identification cards. The discovery of Josh's Yahoo personal profiles led detectives to theorize that he may have arranged to meet someone that he met online. This theory gained credence with the reports of an orange Pontiac Sunfire spotted on campus around the time of Josh's disappearance. Campus security had documented incidents involving this exact vehicle in known hookup areas on campus. In one instance, when campus security approached the vehicle, a college-aged male passenger fled into the darkness and was never identified. The driver of the orange Pontiac was eventually contacted by police, but provided little information. Most suspiciously, the vehicle was destroyed before detectives could thoroughly examine it. This destruction of potential evidence has led to speculation about whether the driver was attempting to hide something, possibly something related to Josh's disappearance. Examination of Josh's online activity on the day of his disappearance showed no evidence of him arranging any meetings for that evening. His internet usage appeared routine, involving browsing movies and other casual activities. In 2022, the Stearns County Sheriff's Office released images of 28 unidentified men found on Josh's computer, asking the public to help identify them in hopes that they might have information relevant to the case. That same year, investigators found that between 11:52 p.m. and 12:32 a.m., Josh's music application was actively playing and manually skipping songs on his computer. This 40-minute window of activity occurred while Josh was supposed to have been walking home from the party, or may have potentially come from someone else being in his room. Many close to the case say the significance of this specific computer activity cannot be understated in analyzing the time of events. If Josh himself was operating the computer, it would suggest he successfully returned to his dormitory, contradicting the theory that he disappeared during his walk home. Perplexingly, no record exists of Josh ever using his keycard to re-enter the building that night. Police also looked into a theory that involved monks and staff members of the college. St. John's University has had a dark history of sexual abuse by monks and staff members. This would become particularly relevant to Josh's case. Since the 1960s, students have reported disturbing behavior from campus staff. In 2016, St. John's Abbey released files documenting 18 monks who were credibly accused of sexually abusing minors. Some investigators theorized that Josh may have been simply researching these abuse allegations as part of an academic project. Computer records showed that on October 3, 2002, someone using Josh's computer searched for, quote, St. John's Abbey Statute of Limitations conspiracy. However, no concrete evidence has ever linked Josh's disappearance to any of the abuse cover-up or to actions by monastery staff. Josh's roommate Nick was among those who pointed investigators towards the monks as potential suspects, though he provided no corroborating evidence for this theory. A bloodhound brought in by Josh's family tracked the scent of the missing college student to St. John's Abbey, but from there the trail only led to the back of the building with no further discoveries. Another possibility involves Josh accidentally overdosing on drugs or alcohol, with someone panicking and disposing of his body. This theory could explain the computer deletion and the suspicious behavior of those close to him. There is limited evidence supporting drug use beyond the alcohol consumption reported at the party, though. Brian Guimond, Josh's father, has never accepted the official theories about his son's disappearance. He has consistently maintained that Josh was the victim of foul play and has criticized the Stearns County Sheriff's Office investigation. In 2021, he filed a lawsuit seeking access to his son's complete case file, arguing that the investigation had been inadequate. The lawsuit was ultimately unsuccessful, with the sheriff's office arguing that releasing the files would jeopardize the active investigation and could impede potential prosecution. Later, Brian expressed frustration with the timing of the evidence being released, noting that the 28 photographs from Josh's computer were made public only before the Netflix Unsolved Mysteries episode aired, coinciding with the 20th anniversary of his disappearance. As of 2025, the Stearns County Sheriff's Office maintains that Josh's case is still open, and Lieutenant Zach Sorensen of the investigation has stated that while the Netflix Unsolved Mysteries episode brought in new tips, none have led to a breakthrough. Anyone who recognizes any individuals in the undated photographs, or who might have information about Josh's disappearance, is asked to call area code 320-259-3700. If you like what we do and want to see more, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much to our patrons. If you would like to support this channel, you can visit the link in our bio below.